The Conversation on BBC Radio Kent with Dominic King.
30 years. Is it really 30 years?
I'm afraid so, yes.
30 years.
I'm not 30, you know.
No, I understand that.
Just 30 years in the business.
30 years. Lloyd Hollett is here tonight, Kent comedian.
Hello, mate.
Hello, 30 years.
Yes. Who would have thought it?
It's so good. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Because you have worked very hard. I don't ever see you not performing somewhere.
It's crazy. Always performing, and I can't believe it's actually 30 years this year since I had my stage debut, which was at the Theatre Royal in Margate, my local theatre, in their production of Oliver. And
Margate's always been the place, it's home, because you grew up there, you live quite close now, Westgate?
Westgate-on-Sea, yeah. So always lived there all my life, Thanet born, Thanet bred. I've Thanet to thank for everything that I've done in my life and achieved, and where I've got from performing at Draper's Mills Primary School as a young performer, and then Hartsdown. I did so much performing there in assembly every summer and winter, getting away with murder.
Yeah.
And then all the youth action groups,
and all that was a kind of starting point. And the Theatre Royal itself, what a theatre!
Yeah,
incredible.
Second oldest stage in the world. It's just remarkable. It's beautiful, and it amazes me still, the people that don't know it exists. People that live in Margate. You know, when I talk about shows I've done in the past, they're like, "Oh, where is the theatre?" Or they only know the Winter Gardens, and once you go inside, it's beautiful. I always say it's like a mini London Palladium. It's stunning.
Yeah, and you think of all those who have performed on that very stage.
Absolutely, everyone's played it. You know, it's quite haunting theatre, beautiful. You know. And I love performing there.
As a kid, did you look at that stage and just think, one day?
Do you know what? No, I didn't. My granddad, the reason I first tread the boards there, he found an advert in the Thanet Gazette one Friday. It said there's an audition tomorrow for Oliver, for Fagin's boys, the Workhouse Boys, and I wasn't remotely interested, but it said you got paid, and all of a sudden I'm like, here we go. And it said it starred Jessica Munchamp, who was playing Nancy in Neighbours at the time. I was a big fan of Neighbours, so I was like, oh my God, she was a big star. And Christopher Beanie, he was playing Fagin.
Of course, we lost Christopher recently. It was so sad.
I know. I did a tweet about him because he was so inspiring and very encouraging to me. And so anyway, I went and did the audition the next day with a mate of mine who ironically is a performer, and I just went along to kind of give him support. We both had to stand on stage and sing Happy Birthday a cappella, and I got in and he didn't. It's the irony. And I'm like, oh no, what now? And so then I was cast, and I remember the first opening night walking on stage with that bowl of gruel, walking out to Food, Glorious Food. That spout of nerves will never leave me, and just amazing reaction. And yeah.
For those who have seen you in your stage shows, the comedy you do, you're known as the comedy wordsmith, and it's because of the linguistic stuff you do, which I just think is stunning. I tweeted out something you did while you were at the Marlow Panto this year, because I just thought you're so good at being able to, in such quick fire, deliver this stuff. I don't know how you do it, but we're going to have a little listen to it if we can.
Okay.
A little bit now of something you do.
Richard Wilson, oh my God, I do believe it, and Tommy Cooper, not like this, it's just like that, and Frank Carson, it's a crack, I tell you now, and Bruce Forsyth, all right, my loves, it's nice to see you, cuddly toy, now I'm in charge, in need of will, give us a troll,
Isn't that, I mean, I love that, but Bruce,
he had to be there.
Yeah.
It's kind of a tribute to all my comedy greats, people that have inspired me over the years, and that was one of the first pieces that I wrote that was totally original, really, once I found the style of the comedy wordplay, which wasn't that long ago, to be honest, Dominic, a few years ago. And once you find, they say, you know, you find a style in your 40s. I'm 40 this year, can you believe? And it's quite ironic, you know, Eric Morecambe, I'm always talking to Paul Hendy about this, he says he found his style when he was 40. And it's something about, you know, you want to be original, you want to be creative and get the best out of you as a performer.
But I watch you on stage with that Bruce Forsyth and the mannerisms, and you know you do it brilliantly, walking around the stage. The audience love it, and someone like Bruce, just such an amazing entertainer, and to be able to kind of bring that to life, fabulous.
Yeah, well, I've grown up with the likes of Bruce Forsyth, Norman Wisdom, Tommy Cooper, and I've always said if you can stand on a stage and entertain, you know, with variety, that's the key, really.
Should we see what Bruce Forsyth's daughter thinks about it? Hello, Julie.
Hello, Dom. Hi, Lloyd.
Oh, my goodness me. Wow. Well, there's a surprise. Hello, how are you?
I'm very well. How are you?
Oh, my God, I nearly fainted then. All the better for hearing from you.
Congratulations with your 30 years in the business.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I've got a long way to get to your father's standards, but
I know. But you know, that was lovely what I heard. All that, it's amazing how you get that out so quickly.
Oh, well, I cling on to that brain whilst it's still there. One day I'll wake up and forget it all. But
and you were talking about the Theatre Royal in Margate. You know, it's so strange you should talk about it, because I was with my daughter the other day and we were walking around and we came across it.
You're joking?
Oh, my God. I wondered where the Theatre Royal was in Margate. It looks beautiful. So we're definitely booking up in the next couple of weeks to go and see a show there, because I can't wait to see it inside.
Oh, my word. Well, thank you so much. I mean, it's just an absolutely incredible venue. And like I say, it's amazing. It amazes me that people don't know it exists. And it's so stunning inside.
Julie, I've got a show you could go to see. It's Saturday the 9th of May, 7:30.
Right. Yeah.
Lloyd Hollett, 30 years of showbiz at the Theatre Royal Margate.
Really? Oh, we're coming then.
Well, there's a plug if ever I've seen one.
We're coming. That'd be brilliant.
Well, amazing. Thank you very much. I mean, what an honour to have you there. I'll put you in the royal box as an idea.
No, don't do that. I'll be hiding. Is there a royal box? I mean, is it like a mini Palladium? Because you said it was like the Palladium.
Yeah, there is. There's 3 royal boxes. Yeah, it's absolutely stunning. One side is blocked off, but yeah, there's 3 royal boxes, and it is absolutely, you know, if you've been there, you know what I'm talking about. But stunning venue.
Julie, what did your dad say about entertainment and that kind of way? Because Lloyd, you know, I've seen him in many different ways, and I just think he naturally has it. And your dad was a natural performer. What did he say to you about that presence that you need on stage to bring that across?
Well, I think if any, did you ever see my dad do his one-man show at all?
Yes, I did. Yes, and I remember it so vividly. It was at Bournemouth Winter Gardens, which is no longer there. Long time ago. And I spoke to him afterwards, and he was so, you know, he gave me all the time in the world. He just took me in off the streets, like you know, taking a complete stranger and welcoming me into the dressing room. We chatted for a few minutes, and I remember him saying to me, he said, the day that you stop getting nervous is the day you give up, because you should always get nervous and don't be afraid or embarrassed to have nerves. And I always tell so many people that ask me advice, and I think that's really important.
Yes, because you think it's like unusual, don't you? Because you get so nervous before you get on stage, but something happens as soon as you walk out onto that stage. Something takes over. Absolutely. And it's like somebody's holding your hand. And I think that's what he always felt. And he did the most amazing show. And I think his whole thing is that the rapport with the audience was so fantastic. You know, he was talking to friends. And I think that was the magic that he had, you know. And he also had so much respect on stage, you know. Everybody absolutely loved him. It was always a thrill to see him, you know, no matter how young I was and no matter how old I got when I saw him doing his shows. It was always a thrill to watch him on stage.
That's one thing I took from Bruce, ironically, you saying that, because I always my material used to be the same, A to Z, start to finish, and watching Bruce's style, you'd see, you know, the audience would just love him when he walked out on stage. And that's one thing I tried to adhere into my act. It's more about the personality, but if they can love you from the moment you walk out, then you've nailed it. And then the material doesn't really matter, it just does itself. Talking to the audience, I did a gig the other night at Thorsby Hall in Nottingham for Warner Hotels. I do a lot of gigs for Warner Hotels, adults only breaks, and I did a little. I was just talking to the audience about my daughter, and people come up to me afterwards and say, "Oh, that story you told about your daughter, I relate that to my granddaughter." And it wasn't a joke as such; it was just me talking to the audience, and they relate to that,
having that relationship and being part of it.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Julie,
it's everything. It's everything.
Julie, thank you as always. Thanks so much for. I think we made Lloyd's night there, so thank you.
What an honour to speak to you. Thank you so much, Julie.
Oh, good luck and have a lovely evening, you two.
Thank you so much.
No, no.
Julie Forsyth in Ramsgate this evening, not so far from Lloyd, of course, living in Margate. Did you know she lived there?
Oh, my God.
Did you?
No, I didn't. You old dog, you. God, I nearly fainted then. What are you trying to do to me?
You did, actually. I was looking at you go... Anyway, I just thought, you two have that amazing connection of comedy, and it was good to do.
But we could make a film and put that on YouTube.
Gather around that fire and tell those stories.
Kind of forgot over the last decade that music is a very powerful part of being human.
The Conversation on BBC Radio Kent with Dominic King.
And the comedian from Margate, Lloyd Hollett, is my guest on the programme tonight. Really good to see you, and thank you so much for coming in this evening.
And you, mate. I still can't get over Julie. I'm shaking here. What are you trying to do to me?
Julie Forsyth, who's just on the programme talking about her dad, Bruce, and really marking Lloyd's 30 years in show business, which we still can't believe it's 30 years. But how did you come to actually learn some of the stuff you do, which is this kind of wordplay? We just talked a bit about that with Julie, this ability to... You do it incredibly fast. And I know we see this maybe if we come along to the Marlowe pantomime, that you have that. But is it just a joy for you to get your tongue round stuff?
It's always been there, the wordplay. I remember when I was about 10, I went to Thanet Stage School, just off Mill Road in Margate, and we were given a vocal exercise on a Friday and said, go and take this away, and whenever you want to warm up your vocal cords, just do this, and we'll do it tomorrow. And Mary Lord, my teacher, sadly no longer with us, we went in the next day on the Saturday, and they said, right, let's go over the vocal exercise. Everyone got their piece of paper out their pocket, and I didn't, and I'd learnt it.
Yeah.
And she's like, you've learnt it? And I'm like, well, I didn't intend to learn it. It just sunk in, just going over it. I can remember it now, like mussels and whelks and slices of anchovy, octopus, tiny fish, dogfish and skate, savoury chutney and sauce with a zing in it, lashings of pickle pile on your plate, next come the birds with a glorious glaze and the dun and a spit with two pleasure to glaze and then basted with honey and swimming. In fact, it goes on and on and on. And
it's pretty impressive.
It's weird. It's just, I don't know.
So you're like a sponge, do you think?
Yeah.
You're able to take things in, and then effectively, I say comedian, but you're an actor. I mean, you have that ability to remember.
Yeah, it's a weird memory. I cling onto that brain whilst it's still there, but it makes your style unique. Not many people use the wordplay anymore. Danny Kaye was a fine example. Ted Rogers used to do it, and Ronnie Barker did to an extent. So did Stanley Unwin. Gobbledygook, and everything was back to front. And
I used to love Stanley Unwin stuff. It was
a genius, and it's such a missed style of language. There's so much you can do with the English language. I mean, I find it fascinating. I do a joke at the moment about comparing Americans to Brits, how they distort the English language, and we invented it. I mean, in America, American women never admit to having an argument with their best friend because they become victimized. Americans don't have their houses broken into, they have them burglarized. Americans don't get obsessed with celebrity, they become mesmerized. I said to this American woman this afternoon, I said, my wife's expecting a baby. She said, when will she be hospitalized? I said, not for another 9 months, she's only just been fertilized. It's the English language. It's great, Dominic.
I love it. Let's hear some of your work.
Told him if he ever got his little Britain out ever again and tried to pull the farshow over her eyes, she'd say, good night, sweetheart, and he'd be waiting for God, because she'd get Terry and June, Jeeves the Muster and Steptoe and Son to dig a hole in the ground so fast he'd have 1 foot in the grave before you could say you rang, my lord. Jack was the son of all. All was married to a farmer and manager of Knee Deep in Incorporated. He had one son and he was called Jack. Eventually Jack married no. They were very religious, spent their life like rabbits and produced 7 children. Holy one of full of bullshit and the 2 twins deep and dip.
Can I just tell you that was one of the biggest challenges of my life?
Editing that, well done, you.
Oh my goodness!
How long did that take you?
That was a little longer than normal. But that's the point, isn't it? About the nature of you as so we might see you in the Marlowe and that big family audience.
Yeah.
As a comedian, though, you also are there for adults. You perform comedy. Actually, the way I guess lots of us want to go, we want a bit of no holds barred. We want you to be able to express yourself, and that is a great joke. If I could unbleep it and play it, I think we all get the idea.
To be honest, that's about as far as I go. When I do have an adult-only audience, and of course, I've worked with Jim Davidson for 13 separate tours, so you have an adult audience that expect that kind of humour. That's as far as I go, really. I don't use the F word in my act. I never use, or the C word. That's something I don't do. I've always said it's just not me. It's just that kind of, because that comes into the wordplay again, and it's a long routine, and there's so many ways of saying things like that, and but it's clever what you can, like the English language again, and it's adapting your audience. Every audience is different, and sometimes people expect that kind of thing.
And what about you? You mentioned about, and I've seen you on tour with Jim Davidson. I remember when I was a kid going to see him with my dad at one of the old. We used to always have the end of the pier stuff, didn't we? I think of going down and enjoying those experiences. Bognor Regis was the favourite. I saw Norman Wisdom down there as well.
Oh, did you?
Such a joy.
Yeah.
And Jim Davidson, he was doing that circuit, and I remember seeing it as a kid. But he also comes in these days for a lot of flack because of the nature of his content. I think it's a mixture of moments where definitely I would say, probably gone too far. Other times I think actually, there's a humour that people kind of enjoy, but where are we in 2020, and should there be certain jokes that shouldn't be there? How do you feel about that when you're supporting Jim?
Political correctness is a bit weird. I think it's gone a bit too far in our country at the moment, and I know Jim's always packing them in, so that he's always got a call. People want to see him. He's selling out theatres. He was at the Winter Gardens a couple of weeks ago, and he filled that.
But some people, as you know, might be listening to the radio going, yeah, but that's because they share familiar viewpoints that he might share.
Absolutely. But then what I always say is, people say Jim goes too far, but then I compare Jim sometimes to Frankie Boyle, for example. I've known Frankie Boyle would do certain jokes about, children that have passed away in the news. Jim would never do that. That's just something he doesn't do. And that, some people like Frankie Boyle, some people like Jim Davidson. Comedy's a weird thing. And I always say in my act, at the end of every show I do, Dominic, I say, you're never going to please everyone. But I say, if I've come out here and made 95% of you smile, then I've done my job. And that's generally, I think, how it works with comedy.
How many roadside Cornish pasties have you had?
I try to resist now because it can affect you as a performer, especially with the wordplay. What I do, I rely on my voice more than usual. A couple of years ago, I was diagnosed with something called MTD, which is muscle tension dysphonia. I didn't even know such a thing exists, and basically, it was a cause of some of my wordplay routines that are so fast and doing it night after night. If I don't warm up properly, it felt I had a lump in my throat, and of course, you think the worst. I could feel like a golf ball in the left of my throat, and it was basically a muscle that had just. I had cameras down my throat and up my nose, and they were showing me at Manchester Hospital. I had to go. I had an ENT specialist, and it was showing me my larynx wasn't flexing as much because it was so fast.
Wow.
What I'm doing, it was actually damaging my voice. And if I don't, I have this special vocal exercise that my trainee did me, and I have to do it 3 times a day.
So you do have to have that kind of understanding, because you're like singers when they go out, and you yourself, you perform, you sing. So, God, that must be difficult. You've got the wordplay, you've got the singing performances. Yeah. The whole package is about being on stage and projecting your voice, and you must have to be really careful. Do you actually talk outside of the theatre, or are you a little quiet?
I talk forever. When I'm on the road, I'm always ringing my mum, I ring my brother, I ring my wife, and I can't.
But
really...
the family like, shut up, Lloyd.
They really are. But you have to have voice rest. It's really important. Catherine Jenkins is always going on about voice rest, and it's so important. I have to have like 2 or 3 litres of water before I perform. If I've got a show at 7 o'clock, 3 hours before, I have to have like 2 litres of water for it to effectively kick in. I can't have pasties after a show when I'm on the road because, if I have a pasty, then I go to bed at 2 in the morning, it lies there, and then you get indigestion, and then it all affects everything. And
the experience though of travelling, so many tours that you've done and you continue to do, and people who know you from the panto will probably think that you, some do I know, only do that job. Literally only do that job, that their entire crew, the entire cast of the Marlow Panto do that job, and they're rehearsing up to that point.
Yeah.
You don't do any other job, Lloyd?
I know. It baffles me that people do say all the time, are you rehearsing now for Panto? They think we rehearse now and then all year, but no, we have 2 weeks rehearsal in November, Amazing. Then we open.
Is Ben Roddy as nice as he always seems to be whenever I meet him? And
I couldn't I've worked with Ben for, what is it, 9 years now. If we didn't get on, if he weren't a nice person, you can tell, you know.
Of course you can.
Stepping into Dave Lee's shoes wasn't an easy feast, but he's, so many people who are big supporters of Dave love Ben just as much, and what he's done is he's turned it around and made it his own.
You're on, as well as doing all of those tours that you do, you work a lot on cruise ships.
Yeah.
Frightened me to death, Lloyd. Okay, so in the morning at the moment, my guilty pleasure before I come to work, in fact, before I start my day, is to watch reruns of The Waltons, okay?
Okay.
I just like the end bit.
Yeah,
always
just
love the end bit.
Yeah, when it ends.
Good night, John boy. Ding, ding, ding. That's it. But I watched that show, and in between, it's on the Sony channel. I'm going to give it a mention. When it's running, in between, the only ad they do are for Fred Olsen Cruise Lines.
Yep.
And I swear, every time I see it every morning, that ship still hasn't got to port yet. It's still literally just sailing. And it frightens me to death thinking about being on a cruise ship, because I feel like I would feel trapped.
Have you ever been on one?
No.
Okay.
But I would feel, big or small, I'd feel like I couldn't get off.
Yeah.
What's it like for you doing a performance and then being around the ship? How do you even begin to relax?
Oh, dear.
Do you lock yourself in your cabin?
I have done. I have done many a time. I remember I did a ship years ago. I mean, I've done nearly 300 cruise ships.
That's why I'm thinking.
In 15 years.
Wow.
I went on a ship and I had a great show. The next morning I went for breakfast, and they sat me in the restaurant on a big table with all the passengers, and the woman opposite said, "Oh my God, did you see that comedian last night? Wasn't he awful?" And it was me opposite, and the woman sat next to me. She recognised it was me. She felt bad. I just sunk in my seat, and I remember I went to my cabin and I just ordered room service for the rest of the week. It really did, and I was on board for another week, and I just thought, I got in my head that everyone thinks like that,
right? Yeah.
Regardless of how well I went, and it can be tough. Now I find my material is mostly original. I find it more rewarding. And instead of people saying, "Oh, I've heard it all before," some ships, I used to do ships where they have like 4 or 5 comedians every 2 days. Like some ships have a comedian every night. And I flew out on a world cruise, and I was the last comedian. This was years ago, and I come out and every joke had been done. I wasn't on board to vet every other joke, every other comedian. And of course, a lot was mine, but then there were a couple of standard jokes. And my opening joke, the woman in the room, he did that last night. And it was died a million deaths. And
so that's really hard, isn't it? Because in terms of, I talked to a lot of comedians on the show about the fact that, so I'll be honest with you, I'm letting a secret out here. Normally, I don't like interviewing comedians. That's it, ever. Yeah. I do like talking to you, and I do like talking to, there are certain comedians who I just know, because you can tell a story. But a lot of comedians, they're great on stage, but off stage, they do not want to talk about stuff. They want to talk about the act, they don't want to talk about themselves, because it's actually... It does attract. It's the same with, dare I say it, radio presenters. It's a comfortable space. It's a comfortable zone.
Yeah, some comics, they're funny, and then off stage it's gag after gag. That's not me. I'm kind of really quite quiet and maybe quite boring and shy on that respect. But no, I'm quite the opposite.
And do you think that helps you then to flick on a switch when you are on stage, that you become not different, because it's just an extension of you, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's still the personality. It's just that like Julie said, the light comes on, the glitz and the glamour, and something happens.
You are, though, I know, sort of looking, you're 30 years in now. You are looking at the next generation of performers, as we heard on BBC Radio Kent earlier on this evening and on our Facebook page. And let's just remind ourselves. Maybe, if it works, if it doesn't freeze. Talk amongst yourself, Lloyd.
Yes. Here, ladies and gentlemen, live in Tunbridge Wells, Royal Tunbridge Wells.
Oh, it's now apparently not working. Have we got it now?
You've broken it.
I've literally just broken the internet.
There you go.
I've broken the internet tonight.
That's not such a bad thing. I think it'd be good for the country.
No, I've just broken the internet tonight.
Just your internet, not just the country.
I think the whole lot. I think I may have just been the first. Tim Berners-Lee actually managed to do that, but I have just not. Let's try that again.
My family have been absolutely...
No, it's not that one. It's not that one. I don't know. It's gone. Anyway, your daughter
Yes.
She appeared on a social media video.
She did. Is she trending?
It's had quite a few likes tonight. It's quite nice, yeah. But she appeared on there, and her timing was excellent, wasn't it?
Yeah, young budding performer. Me and my wife Danielle, we think she may go into the business. We'd like her to be a musician. She loves music. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, she's very good, and if people get a chance to have a look, she does. So you hoping she was going to mention you. She mentioned
my mum. No,
not your mum.
Not my mum. My mum's not her mum. That'd be wrong, wouldn't it?
No, that would be very different. No. So yeah. Anyway, great stuff. Really good having you on the show tonight. This 30 years in showbiz from Lloyd Hollett, the comedy wordsmith. What can we expect when we come to see your show on the 9th of May at the Theatre Royal in Margate?
So it's 30 years to the year I had my stage debut at the same theatre. So it's very apt that I'm coming back. And I used to do a one-man show every year there, and I've not for years. And so many local people have said, "You're coming back to Margate." So to celebrate, I'm not only bringing my act there, but I'm having it filmed for a new DVD.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, Matthew Tidston, my friend from Advision TV.
Oh, we know Matt.
Yeah, everyone knows Matt. He's filmed my last 2 DVDs, so we're getting them on board. And so many people say, is this routine on the DVD? Is that so? There's a lot of new stuff. I've asked people any classic routines that they want, and they've requested stuff. So
well, you've told us about how it can affect your voice and between performances, but I wonder if you would do one for us tonight of that big routine.
What, here now?
Yeah, would you do it
live in Tunbridge Wells?
Yeah, would you do that for us?
If I can remember it.
Okay, good luck. I'll take it to you.
Thank you. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, live on the Dominic King Show on BBC Radio Kent. 134 comedy legends, British comedy legends, in 2 minutes. Let's go for it. There's French and Saunders, Anton Decker, Mellon, Sue Mitchell and Webb, Norman Wisdom, Alan Carr, Miranda Hart and Jimmy Carr, Jimmy Jones, Milton Jones, and not forgetting Smith and Jones, Davidson and Barrymore and Grace and he said, "Shut that door." Richard Wilson, oh my God, I do believe it, and Tommy Cooper, not like this, it's just like that, and Frank Carson, it's a cracker, what I tell him, and Bruce Forsyth, who right my house, it's nice to see you, cuddly toy, now I'm in charge and need a well, give us a trouble, Lee Mack, Sean Lockhart, Mitchell Lee, as well as Fry and Laurie, Hinge and Brackett, Chaz and David Morecambe and Wise, Kenny Everett, Dave Allen, Little and Large, Mike Breed and Cannon and Bull, June Whitfield, Bill Bailey, Bradley Walsh, Maxwell and Tommy Trinder, Les Dawson, Ted Rogers, Bob Marcus, Mike Milligan, Tim Vine and Max Miller and Brunella Scales, Freddie Starr and Sarah Millican, Julie Walter, Stephen Fry and Paul O'Grady, Funny Guy, Eric Sykes and Benny Hill, Gervais, and then there's Harry Hill, Joe Brand, Rowan Atkinson, Lee Evans, Mickey Flanagan, Russ Abbott, Des O'Connor, Charlie Drake and Tom O'Connor, Russell Kane and Danny Kay and Gordon Kay and Peter Kay. I can't think of more. John Bishop, Victoria Wood, Sid James and Tony Hancock, Kenneth Williams, Jim Dell and Bernard Breslaw, as well as Frankie Howard. There is Barbara Windsor, Kenneth Connor, and there's Terry Scott by Graves, Tarbuck and Rob Brydon, Cleese and Eric Idle, Michael Paling Gray and Chapman, Terry Gillingham, Terry Jones and Peter Sellers, Michael McIntyre, Stanley Unwin, Patricia Routledge, Carolina Hearn, Kathy Burke, Susan Cowman, and Tracy Allman, Bark and Corbett, Bryce and Crawford, Cook and Moore and Graham Norton, Bobby Davro, Brian Conley, Joe Pasquale, Billy Conley, Pam Ayres, Jack D and Jasper Carrot, Ken Dodd, Jethro and Russell Howard. With one more left, I think that's me.
Wow. Amazing.
I'm not doing that again.
Sorry, Case. When? Oh, apparently we're not live. What happened? We go off?
I don't know.
Oh.
I pressed the button.
You pressed the button and
everything
just went.
You broke Radio Kent as well.
Lloyd Hollett, thank you so much.
Thank you, mate.
Lloyd Hollett, do check him out. Saturday, 9th of May at the Theatre Royal in Margate. The comedy wordsmith, 30 years in showbiz.